Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, it has been a while, about a week or so, but I finally have another story about Lorna Slater. She's had to do something to make sure that she remains relevant and to show that she's not embarrassed by all the failures that she's connected with. And so she's come out today and announced that there'll be a doubling in the fines for fly tipping. Now, a few weeks ago I did a story about the over complexities of recycling stuff at home, and how they're trying to introduce more and more different types of wheelie bin, and that you have to recycle it into the correct one, and if you don't there'll be fines, and they're going to send inspectors around to inspect what's in your wheelie bin. But of course that's virtually unprovable, because they actually have to prove that you put it in the wheelie bin. There might be stuff in there that someone in the streets just opened your wheelie bin and thrown it in, or some such. So it's virtually unprovable. But it's going to come at a great cost. And I said in that video that it would increase the amount of fly tipping. And lo and behold, she must have watched my video, because now they're doubling that fine to £250 if you go a fly tipping in the evening. So we'll take a look at this article. There has been a thought that's come to mind to me, but I'll put it on when we get into the article, and we'll have a look at it, so that we can admire her from afar and say, oh yes, she didn't lose that vote of no confidence, and we now all have complete and utter confidence in this woman and all her bright ideas. Here goes. So, Lorna Slater's bold action on fly tipping will double fines to £500. Now, I'm reading that as Lorna Slater's desperate attempt to show that she's still around and still having really bright ideas, and isn't ashamed of her failures. Action on fly tipping, because that woman has got she knows she's done wrong. Put it this way, she knows she has completely done wrong, but she doesn't want to admit it, and she can't be seen to be ashamed. She has to show that what she's done is the right action time and time again without fail. So the Scottish Government has launched plans for fly tipping fines to be more than doubled to £500 as part of a bold action to clamp down on littering. The new action plan proposes raising the current level of fixed penalty notices for fly tipping to £500, with a suggestion for ministers that fines could be increased further if needed. Now, this is the thought I had in the intro there. If litter is such a problem, there must surely be a way of reducing it. Perhaps through some kind of scheme where you return containers and plastics. I don't know if anyone's thought of this. Just think of all that sort of plastic that could be returned if only there was some kind of scheme that could be put in place quite simply and easily. Something that perhaps an expert in the recycling industry would suggest would be a good thing and would completely work, even without recycling glass. Imagine that if that such a thing existed. Anyway, it's part of a 6-year strategy to tackle litter and fly tipping. She thinks she's going to be in power in 6 years. Oh, bless her little cotton socks. Anyway, this sets out how national and local government can work together with businesses, communities and others to deal with the problem. As I say, there was a scheme available, wasn't there? Only they chose to make a political point rather than actually getting on and solving a problem. The Scottish Government also plans to bring in new powers which could see vehicle owners fined if rubbish is dumped from their own car or van. Again, prove it. In addition, council could be given powers to issue fixed penalty notices to householders who fail to meet a duty of care obligation when disposing of their waste. For example, putting recyclable items in the wrong bin, which I've covered before, but they cannot prove it was you that put it in the bin. You see, they ask you to put the bins out for the bin men. Now, unless they have photographic or video evidence that somebody didn't put it in the bin, all you got to say is, I didn't put it in, it was out in the street per council instructions, somebody going by must have put it in. Case dismissed, Your Honour. Anyway, ministers have promised increased action to deter fly tippers and enhanced support for private landowners impacted by the problem. I mean, I must admit on it. I mean, I don't disagree with the principle. I hate fly tipping. It's just laziness. Go to the local tip and dump it. And yes, if they charge you, they charge you. Don't be an arse about it. Don't be mean, but certainly don't do it in the countryside. Or anywhere. I mean, I'm saying the country, don't do it anywhere. Just don't do it. But you get people who are mean, tight, lazy, or they're just scum. It's that. Anyway, he said, while he said it doesn't deliver... Barry Fisher, I've skipped ahead there. Barry Fisher, Chief Executive of Keep Scotland Beautiful, said the strategy is a significant step forward in tackling the litter emergency. Emergency? Since when has it become an emergency? Why is everything in government? Oh, it's a climate emergency. Well, you haven't stopped private flights, so it can't be an emergency. The litter emergency. Well, if it was an emergency, you'd have had some kind of recycling scheme going, wouldn't you? So it's not an emergency, is it? Stop using hyperbolic language when it isn't really necessary. If you mean to stop this litter problem, that would be enough. You don't talk about emergencies. It makes you sound like a tit. Anyway, he said, while it doesn't deliver everything we asked for and will not immediately reverse the decline, we have recorded in cleanliness levels across Scotland, he said, it is a positive start. Yes, it is. We'll grant them it is a start, but it's not the start they needed. They needed the DRS in place. That would have got rid of a lot of the problem. Anyway, said there is no doubt urgent action is needed now. An appropriate increased investment in the future is essential if we are to revitalise our communities and clean up Scotland. I've got a great idea. In your recycling, and tip, you have the council recycling centres, things like that. Just make them free, even to industry. Or at least a nominal charge for industry. Because otherwise it will continue. People just go out further afield, 3 o'clock in the morning, dump it, nobody knows. You've got no way of knowing, have you? Anyway, Greens Biodiversity and Circular Economy Minister, that's a mouthful, Lorna Slater said Scotland is a beautiful country and we all have a responsibility to keep it that way. Well, if we could get rid of bad rubbish, love, and I'll let the casual viewer finish that sentence for me. This government makes no apologies for taking bold action on tackling litter and fly tipping, which is a blight on our streets, communities and countryside, as well as threatening our natural environment and wildlife. And as I say, I do completely agree with what she's saying, but this isn't the first step that should have been done. The first step should have been last week, shouldn't it? Anyway, she said the strategy will drive further change in behaviours and the delivery of services, only if you can enforce it. And that's the trouble. You haven't got enough people. Scotland is a very large country with very few people. And once you get outside of the actual main sort of 4 or 5 big cities, it's very, very sparsely populated. And that is why I love it. Don't get me wrong. I can drive across the top end, sort of Wick, up John O'Groats, all the way across Doonray, go through Doonray. Well, I like Strathy Point, but you go across the top of Doonray, you get out there to the not the Carla Lockhouse, what are you talking? Oh, come on. Cape Wrath. What's the little town? The little town by Cape Wrath, whose name I can't remember for the life of me. But you go across all there, and it's lovely. And there's not a pub. Not a pub. Enforcement, she said, is the key theme. And the strategy set out robust commitments, increased raising fixed penalty notices for fly tipping to £500 and considering increasing fines further if required. She said the strategy is part of a wider package of measures to tackle Scotland's throwaway culture, including a ban of some single-use plastic items and a commitment to introduce a charge on disposable coffee cups. Putting a charge on the coffee cups just makes the coffee more expensive. If you haven't got a coffee and you want a coffee, you're just buying an expensive coffee cup, which you're then going to throw away. It's a pointless thing. How about making throwaway coffee cups illegal? And if you want a coffee, you have to purchase your own mug that you carry with you and bring with you. Or you sit in a cafe, drink it and leave it there so it can be cleaned up and used again. That's not hard either. Anyway, the Scottish Government has put its flagship recycling initiative, the Deposit Return Scheme, for drinks, cans and bottles on hold until October 25. Not bottles. Bottles won't be there. And this is because the glass recycling scheme is so good. The UK one they've been looked at this. They've had the glass industry and they're saying, no, you can't do it with the glass. We're so good with the glass. Don't do it with the glass. And the British government are saying, maybe. So chances are there won't be glass in there. So I don't know why they keep saying that. Anyway, there she is again. So she's shown that she is important again, that she's deep at the heart of government again, and that she's coming up with ideas that people will praise her for being virtuous and brilliant and not saying a word about the cancelled DRS. I wonder why. Anyway, I shall round off and come up. I mean, genuinely, I think everyone agrees litter is a problem. It's not an emergency, but it is a problem and it is horrible and we shouldn't do it. I'm not saying in the individual, I'm saying I do it, you do it, or any individual. But we, as a society, tend to throw away far too much in the wrong place. And there's nothing wrong with just walking up to a bin and putting it in a bin. I pick up something in my street. If there's a wheelie bin, somebody's wheelie bin, I do it. I put stuff in the wheelie bin. But my God, I can think now I could get that householder in deep trouble. What do they want me to do? Straight on the street? No, I'm being responsible by putting it in a bin. That's got to be worth something, hasn't it? Anyway, they overcomplicate everything. And the thing is, when you look at what actually happens with all the stuff that you split at home, so you go, oh, we'll put the tins in there and the plastics in there and that and there and that and that. Then they take them all and they put them all at the same tip at the other end because they don't actually have the facilities to deal with all this separated rubbish yet. What they're doing, and this is absolutely true, and I have been told this, is what they're doing is they know they can't I'll start this from the other way around. It's pointless separating because they don't have the facilities to separate, but the reason they're doing it is to get you into the mindset of doing it until such point that they do have the ability to recycle those things on an individual basis. 90% of household waste still goes into landfill. The big two that don't effectively are glass and tins. But virtually everything else goes into landfill. Very little plastic gets recycled at the moment. So that's what all this recycling of different things is for. It doesn't make any difference if you don't. But what they're trying to do is play with your mind and socially train you into doing it, because in maybe 30 years' time, they may have the facilities in place. Although, given the SNP are in charge, 50 years' time, they may have the facilities in place to deal with it. That is basically what, and I've been told that by a council official. And it's the things you learn when you're chummy with councillors. Let me tell you, the things you learn. Anyway, I shall round off there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see here on the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Let's recycle Lorna Slater. That would be great. Until next time, stay safe, stay well. Do please recycle. Don't please fly tip. It's horrible. And goodbye.